Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today we have got an unusual story. Zimbabwe and South Africa governments have signed an agreement where Zimbabwe is going to export, yes, you heard me, export treated water to South Africa. Benjamin, what do you think of that story?
Good evening to you, and good evening to all viewers. Wow, that's that's bizarre. Well, I really don't know how it's going to it's going to pan out, or how this agreement came to be about. Because I mean, I know for a fact Zimbabwe is failing to, to deliver water to its own people. Now, for them to want to go even bigger and then try and export water, wow, wow. I, this I will have to, keep my ears to the ground and try and find out how this deal is going to work out for both parties involved.
I must say I do agree with you as well. It really is a strange story, to say the least. Zimbabwe has, and I think until recent, and in fact, even now, I understand Mnangagwa had to cancel some of his rallies with church leaders because of the cholera problem. So Zimbabwe is clearly failing to supply clean water to its own people. And here we are. It has got enough treated water to export, but doesn't have enough treated water to supply its own people. I think this is just another case of where the regime is putting so much emphasis on earning foreign currency to the point of being uh, negligent of neglecting its duties to its own people. Um, if you're failing to supply water and many people have died of cholera, how are you saying then you're going to have enough money to treat water and export it to South Africa? This is unbelievable. It's just absurd. I really, I must admit, I am also at a loss here, Benjamin.
I mean, let's look at what is happening. We know that in Zimbabwe, most of the high density suburbs are having to ration water, to use water sparingly, or put waters in containers for safe, for safekeeping for tomorrow, in the eventuality that they get up with no water. And it's a case where water is going for, people are going without water for days on end. And then for them to broker such a deal to say we are going to export water all the way that side, when they cannot give the residents that are there locally, surely it just raises the questions to say, where are our priorities? And is it profitable? I'm not sure. I mean, this is the first time I've heard of such a deal. I would expect it maybe in the arid world, where there are deserts, and it's very difficult to get water. But I'm wondering, is it cheaper for South Africa to get water from Zimbabwe that is treated, and is it profitable for Zimbabwe to export water? Is there a pipeline that is in place, or how on earth are they planning to go about such a deal? Surely it's shocking. It's very shocking.
Well, I must admit I haven't heard all the details. It could well be that we are talking of maybe some of the small towns like Bedbridge, close to South Africa, to Zimbabwe, South Africa border, where it will be cheaper for the South Africans to just import water from Zimbabwe rather than construct a pipeline for themselves to supply water to the respective town. I mean, these things are not unusual, but they are usually at a very small scale. It's quite common to hear, for instance, that a town across the border from one country gets all its electricity and water from another country, because to construct a power line and pipeline to supply that particular small town would be too expensive for the respective country. So I don't know of the full details, but in this particular case, it sounds like this is the Zimbabwe government desperate to sell anything that it can. Let's be honest here, that Zimbabwe has been failing to supply treated water to its own people. Like you correctly said, it has been going on for decades. It's not as if this is anything new. And I'm not sure where this particular water, and how much of it is being supplied to South Africa. But I won't put it beyond this Zimbabwe government that they're trying to sell anything that they can. And even if it means the local people have got to make do without water, so be it. I think that is the tragedy here. And I think that is one of the sorry state of affairs in Zimbabwe, where the people themselves are being sacrificed for the good of the ruling elite.
Yes, I agree with you. I mean, especially when you find a government that is out of touch with its own people. I honestly believe that, this ZANU-PF government does not take into consideration, what people are going through. And I don't think they actually have time to actually go and find out what is happening within, the society or in the communities that Zimbabweans are actually living. Because I mean, I once heard the president asking, about trains, to say, are trains still moving, which means he's out of touch with reality. But I mean, look, like rightfully you say, I'm sure he knows that there is cholera. There's cholera all over Zimbabwe that is killing a lot of people and infecting a lot of of our people. But this is due to lack of proper sanitization, no water to wash hands, and amongst other things, water to clean up and stuff like that. And then here comes somebody that goes and broker a deal to take water as far as South Africa. Even if it is as far as Messina, I'm sure Beitbridge has got water problems right now. So you can't really say we are going to take water. And here we are. Where is he going to get the water? I mean, we are right in the middle of, or we are going to be facing a big drought. Surely now is the question where we are supposed to be asking to say, how much water have we got in our reserve, in our dams? Because most of our dams is just silt, and it's hard for us to actually get a true measurement of the amount of water that we have. What if we export all this water and then we are left with none? I mean, some of those things have to be taken into consideration. Our dams have been so much, they're full of silt from different mining activities and or whatever is happening now. It's pretty I don't like to sound negative, but I don't like the idea. I don't think it's a very good idea. First of all, I, I just don't see it feasible for Zimbabwe to be exporting water, especially when you are rationing your own people or at the expense of your own people.
Yeah, I think like I said, the main thing that will strike most people here is that this is an agreement at a government level. If it was just, I don't know how big um, this Bedbury side of South Africa is, but even if it's a small community, I mean, like I said, exporting something because it's more convenient for Zimbabwe to supply that community with water, just as much as it may be they reciprocate and supply Bedbridge with electricity, for instance, and so forth. That is okay. But I think at a government level, one wonders how much are we talking about here, and I think that is the worrying thing. The quantities involved. If government is going to be involved, are we looking at large quantities here? And in this particular case, is this a question of the regime um, trying to find solutions to its own failures, um, to revive the economy by exporting whatever it can, even at the expense of the people being um, deprived of that particular resource, in this case here, water. Because, yeah, like we said, Zimbabwe has had a serious water problem. But anyway, that is an interesting story. I think maybe next time we can follow it up if we get more detail on the extent of the water export, and also that the worrying thing is that it's not being exported at the expense of the local Zimbabweans themselves being deprived of something as basic as water. Anyway, thanks very much again, Benjamin. We'll meet tomorrow, same time, and to the listeners there, if you can join us, you're welcome. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Good night to you all.